Hi, friends. So, welcome back to another episode of Love Letters from Liz. Y'all, today's episode is so special to me. I had the honor and blessing to have my dad be my first in person guest, and I'm recording this after, and let me tell you, this podcast is filled with so much love and wisdom and some tears and some wooden spoons. You'll see what I mean if you watch the video. But before we get into today's episode, I would love to invite God into our time together. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to have my dad on the podcast. Lord, thank you for giving us a space to connect and open up about our struggles and our stories. God, I pray that whoever is listening on the other end of this would just hear what you need them to hear. God, that this episode would give them comfort, a little bit of joy and peace, and just to let them know that they're not alone and that they are loved and seen. God, you are so good. We love you. We thank you. And in your name we pray. Amen. Hello, Dad. Welcome back. Welcome to the podcast. You are my first official guest in person.
Yay.
How are you feeling about that?
I feel pretty honored, actually. I think I always thought you had a future in doing this podcasting and seeing you grow up. And it's nice. It's a way for, I don't know, to connect, I guess, with you, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then what's going to be cool is when Tati, our
Mm,
niece, or his granddaughter, my niece, she's 4 years old right now. She's going to be able to look this up any day and watch this video back
yeah.
and hear from us, and I think that's pretty cool because we didn't have that growing up, right? So, but before we get started, why don't we tell our audience a little bit about you?
So I was born in the Philippines. Both my parents are Filipinos also. I'm number 4 of 7 kids. Moved to the US when I was 10. That was fifth grade generally. We were living in the East Coast. I was mostly staying with my grandparents when I was there. And then I joined the service right out of high school. And then throughout my tour, how did we end up in Hawaii? I definitely did a lot of stopover here in my tours in the Navy. But I really liked it here. And I asked you guys if you guys wanted to come here, and
The rest is
the
history.
rest is history. Here we are 23 years later, I think. Yeah. Yeah, 23 years later.
Do you have a memory in the Philippines that you're very fond of that you will always remember that you look back on pre fifth grade?
Pre fifth grade, yeah. I definitely. I have a lot of memories of living in the Philippines already. In fact, I've looked at some of my old pictures, class pictures, going to school there. And when I was growing up, I went to an all boys Catholic school in the Philippines and definitely made a lot of friends there. I remember even as early as, I have some flashback of memories, even as early as kindergarten, prep. We call it prep in the Philippines, but it's kindergarten really here. It's the grade before you go to grade one, basically, right? So I remember some memories there. And then definitely third grade where we third grade is where we started doing intramural basketball. Basketball was big in my life back then. So playing basketball in the third grade with the different third grade classes, basically. I remember that. It's a good memory because was a group of us that was always in the same class from third, fourth grade, and then fifth grade. Some of us separated, but we were there, growing up together. And we were a good group. I think we won the championship in third grade. We won the championship in fourth grade.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't win the championship in fifth grade, but it's okay.
Sorry.
That was bad. But
Got to give other people a
yeah, a
chance.
chance. But those were good memories. I had good memories of just playing, having good time over there, and meeting my friends. I tried to look up some of them actually when I go back to the Philippines, but no success yet. We're still trying to work on that a little bit.
The power of social media, though, I'm
Yeah,
sure you'll
you're
find
right.
them.
You're right. Yeah.
That would be great. And then when you moved here, you said you're on the East Coast, but for those who don't know, where on the East Coast were you at?
All right. So Georgia, Vidalia, Georgia, the Sweet Onion City is where we ended up there basically because we had family that was already living there. So I ended up going from fifth grade to and graduating high school in Vidalia. There, I think when I was growing up, there was probably four Filipino families, or maybe even four Asian families, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
in my high school class, or not actually in the entire school. Basically, there was probably only four Asian families there. So
What was that like growing up with not seeing a lot of diversity in your hometown?
it was shocking. It was shocking for sure. When I first moved in the fifth grade, it was a shock, number one, because the schools in the US are boys and girls, right? So I've always gone to school prior to that point with only boys. Plus, we also had to wear a uniform, right? So here, you just wear regular clothes, and then with girls in the class, boys and girls are mixed. The first year, I think I started class maybe like mid-January, right away, basically after the Christmas break. We started class, and then it was shocking at first, but the one thing that I do remember is I felt like I was welcomed by many of the kids. At that point, you're just new, and people are just curious about you and everything. And this is both. I mean, I know you know about the South, Georgia. There's certainly, back then, 1980. This was 1980. Racial differences is still there. I mean, there's no segregation, but there's still a lot of black this, white this, basically, right? But I felt like I was really welcomed by both black and white kids. Made friends with both. Fifth grade wasn't, I didn't think it was that bad. Actually, to be honest, I really enjoyed fifth grade, to be honest with you, going over here because it was different. And also, the one thing I remember was academic wise, school wise, a lot easier than in the Philippines, basically.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
So I felt like I didn't even need to study, basically, but I would still go do well, get A's or whatever. I feel like I didn't even have to do anything. I guess you could say that's good or bad, depending. Good for me because I didn't have to do anything, but bad because I probably wasn't being challenged.
When you moved here from the Philippines, you could already speak English, though.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I could speak because English in the Philippines is you learn it in class.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a subject. Maybe it wasn't the best English, or maybe you'll say some things that are, just a little bit off, but you pick it up pretty quick. And at that age, also, you'll adapt really quickly, basically. So,
Going back, you said you went to a Catholic school growing up. Was that the first time you were exposed to hearing about God and Jesus?
no, definitely, I was raised Catholic. My parents are both Catholic, devout Catholics, and so our family's been raised that way. My first memory, really, of being a Catholic or what this really means, it's because of the school. Going through because this, when you go through a Catholic school, certainly the religion is part of it, but at that age, first, second grade, you don't really think about it too much. But at second grade is where you actually go through First Communion. But that's with everybody in this, that's with your classmates. So it's almost just like, at that time, it's almost just like, okay, well, everybody's going to go through a play, so we're going to do a play. But you don't really understand it. Yeah, it's important, but you don't really think about it as, well, everybody's doing it, so it's nothing special about it at that point, right? I mean, at least that's how I felt. The first impact for me, I think, was confirmation. Confirmation was, I think, happened either, I think, fourth grade for me.
Early.
Yeah, early, and I'm not sure why it was early. There were some changes because Uncle Derek, my older brother, he was 2 grades above me, but we had our confirmation at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I have a picture. I just saw that we did our confirmation together. So I'm not sure we were um, why we were doing it together. Maybe there were some changes that we're doing. But going back to your question, is the confirmation to me was I don't know. I just could tell when that happened, something was different.
Yeah.
I would describe it, and even then, I remember people asking me about it. I just would describe it as I don't know. I just feel clean.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what I could feel. It was definitely like something glowing, something, but you felt like, wow, I feel really clean right now for whatever reason, and And I remember, I think somebody was asking me, he said, why do you not feel this way when you go to confession? Because obviously after communion, you can go to confession. I said, no, I don't. I never, that was the first time to me that I felt like something's different,
Okay.
and I vividly remember that because it's just, you just feel it. You're just like, whoa, what is different about this right now, basically. So, yeah.
For those who don't know, what's confirmation?
So confirmation is where they, as they say it, as I remember it, what they told us there, you basically become they say that's a soldier, what they say, but what they really mean is you become like somebody who can evangelize and talk to people about their faith. Basically, the confirmation is like the last phase. I mean, you always learn about your religion. You're always going to learn about it, even today, right? I mean, as you know, we both we go through sometimes to talk about it, but at least for the Catholic Church, a confirmation is when they feel like you've discussed many of the things beyond, like, for example, you go to communion, you go to at second grade, you go to communion, so you learn about the Eucharist. At the same time, because you have to go through confession, you learn about confession. But at confirmation, you learn about the other sacraments also. So, do I remember any of that stuff? No, but it's certainly that's what the way they saw it. I mean, I didn't remember it when I went through confirmation, but as I got older, you get exposed to it and everything. As long as you stay in the faith, you get more exposed to it. Supposedly, where you can actually talk about what being a Catholic is all about, basically.
Interesting, because you said fourth grade for you is when you
Fourth
got
grade.
confirmed. That's pretty young, right? Because
Yeah.
I got confirmed sophomore year of high
Yeah.
school, so
Yeah.
that's a pretty decent gap
Yeah,
between the two.
yeah, it was. And again, I don't know why they're doing that, why they decided to do that. I think some of the places they've changed it. I think here in Hawaii, I think they even changed it now where you go to communion and confession and confirmation at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's just I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but I guess you don't really stop learning. Anyways, you have to continue to learn about your faith if you really want to learn about it, and at least then the actual sacrament of confirmation, it's already done, basically.
Yeah.
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 So
Okay, so from fourth grade on, could you say that your faith has grown since then?
yeah, when I moved to the U.S., the parish that would go to was Sacred Heart Parish in Vidalia, Georgia. One thing growing up in a Catholic school, all boy Catholic school, every time there's a mass, there's always a lot of altar servers, deacons, that go through the process for the mass. But at the church that we were at, our home church in Vidalia, there was an opportunity to volunteer to do that. That was fun. I think right away I started maybe fifth grade. Yeah, fifth or sixth grade.
Oh.
I started to be an altar server, and I think I did that for 3 or 4 years. And you see how it goes with with how to prepare the altar and the things that the priest will need you to do. So that, in that sense, it grew on just to see what the mass is all about behind the scenes, basically. But that was so maybe I was 10, and then I probably did it till I was about 15 or so. And then after 15, you get to be too big sometimes, and I don't know, just I guess normally just younger kids that do it. So I think I stopped doing it about 15. But I did a lot. I do all the like Easter. I'll do weddings. I'll do it's kind of but it was fun. I thought it was fun actually. So I learned some of that, and then um, at one point in my life, maybe right around I don't know, eighth or ninth grade. So that'd be about 15, 16, I guess. That's when that's when a lot of kids tend to hit challenges in their life and everything, right? So in fifth grade, where maybe the kids that were nice to me are no longer nice to me at that point, right? So, but I don't think it was that bad. But anyways, you just tend to like deal with other more serious growing up problems, girls for sure, school for sure. Then you're not, your friends are driving, you're not driving. It's just things that you're dealing with. And I at that time, my grandparents were here. My parents were not here, but I was staying with my sister, my two sisters. And I think that was around the first time I realized, okay, wait, I don't know what to do here. I have no idea what's going on here, basically, right? So, started to, just having some growing pains, basically growing challenges. And I think one, I didn't really have much oversight. Basically, nobody was really doing paying attention to what I was doing. Basically, I didn't do drugs. Maybe I did a little bit of drinking back then. It's 15, 16. Who doesn't, right? Basically, or generally, the majority of people would be doing, especially at that age. I think that's when you see some folks start to do it. And I think there was some depression, a little bit of depression that was hitting me back then, and trying to deal with, how do I do it? Who do I talk to about these things that I'm dealing with, right? And I think you kind of reach a point, and I was like, I think I was going to break for a little bit there, but I just remember just saying, God, can you help me? Basically, just crying and just said, God, please help me, basically. And I tell you what, man, as soon as I said that, the first person that comes to my mind was my grandfather. And yeah, let's start thinking about this again. Anyways, well, they were, we were living side by side. They were in a different house. We were in a different house. And I was obviously challenged. I was crying, and I was just like having a hard time dealing with many things. It just came to my mind, and I just called him, and I said, hey, Pa, I called him Papa back then. Pa, I'm just dealing with some stuff. I don't know what to do, basically. And he said, well, why don't you come over? I just remember him, I just walked out of the house, and then I was going to go to his house. I just saw him standing at the
Like the balcony.
Yeah. It's like one of those things you see somebody, you're like, especially when you're, I don't think that's going to happen.
It's okay. It's a safe space.
Okay. Anyways, so especially when you feel like you're alone and you see somebody, and I just remember seeing his figure, and I was like, when somebody cares about you, right? So I go to him basically, and I talk to him, and all this stuff, and
He loved you.
yeah,
The way that he was in your life is how you are in our lives now. You really passed down his love and his grace. Like, you've been here through me, through Bea, through Pal. Anytime we call you, we're like crying, Dad, we need
yeah,
you. Something's wrong. We're going through something. And you just speak life over us, and you love us, and you're there for us. So it's really passed down, this love, God's love, from generation to generation. And that's like, God is so good.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you all you have to do is ask. But yeah, he definitely was there for me, will help me through the challenges, talk to me. Somebody just give me some guidance on the things that you don't know, because you're a kid. What are you supposed to know? Basically, you're not. There was no internet back then. Not that the internet is always good. It's just, but there was no way to find out. Nobody to talk to, basically. And my dad wasn't there. My mom wasn't there to talk to. Basically, I felt like I was just trying to figure it out myself. And that piece started my journey. I started really looking and searching. I don't remember how exactly I started, but there was a youth retreat. It was called Search, that I attended, and it was by myself. Just by myself. I don't remember. Maybe it was because he recommended it, or somebody at church recommended it, or a family member recommended it. But it was a youth. It was a Friday. You go Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, typical weekend retreat. All kids, or kids my age or older than me or whatever, and it's boys and girls and everything. That was an opening for me. Also, outside of just the family, where some of the experiences I had there were just, I don't know, I can't explain it, to be honest with you. Like, I've told you this before too. Like, there was one, there's certainly a lot of music, a lot of singing, a lot of love in the within each other, within the participants. But there's one event that I felt the presence of God, per se. Is the way it goes is, they blindfold you, basically, and you're sitting there to blindfold you, and then somebody, you know somebody helps you and guides you, basically, to walk out in the garden, out in the retreat area. there's just two things that I never forgot. Basically, first one was where when they're blindfolding you, and then there was a pond or some maybe it was just a pond. It had to be just a pond where obviously there's water. So you're blindfolded, and they guide you on your hand, and you touch the water, and it was like, I don't know, like the way I always remembered it. And I always say it is like the first time I ever touched water. Basically, it was just a senses where you just felt it all. Basically, like the water, it was so refreshing, so cold, so alive, basically. And as you're touching it, and it just fills you. And then that was one, and then just very simple, just water. And then the other one was I think we found a bench, blindfolded Stuart, and we found a bench, and then she just raised my head. He or she just raised my head just like that, just to get the sun in your face.
Oh.
And man, it was like God holding you basically in your face. Basically, it was just I know, just those things I never forgot basically. And obviously, there's a lot of like emotions going through all that, and but that was a good faith for me to just growing up with other people who love God your age. It's not, because that's what's hard now, right? A lot of people don't, or there's some people who don't. And when you go to school, it's not everybody that goes to church. Although in Georgia, a lot of people did go to church, but you don't really talk about church basically.
Yeah.
So being surrounded by that was nice. And I think what happened was on the next retreat, I wanted to go again, but then I didn't even have to ask, because what the leaders of that retreat asked me if I wanted to speak like a speaker on the next retreat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
They saw how it moved in
I
your
guess, and they wanted to so I spoke at the retreat, and the following retreat, and then I think I brought some friends with me on that retreat. One of my best friends in high school, I brought him with me on that retreat, and then the following retreat, I brought a couple more friends. And then the following retreat, I think I brought my two sisters, Joanne and Marcel. They went with that too. So I did that, I think, pretty much all the way to either junior or senior year. Did it several more times. And that was definitely well, it was definitely all the way to senior year, basically. And friendships with kids who love God, basically. Or, that's when I definitely developed a lot of friendships with the friends around who didn't think I would be friends with, but they became my good friends, and uh, that that was good. And then obviously I joined the Navy after that. But the one other experience in the Navy that I know of for sure is boot camp. I think I've told you guys, maybe I told you this before too. I mean, you may not remember, but boot camp is always like, when you first go to boot camp, it's like you feel like you did something wrong and they put you in jail.
Oh man.
Because you can't do anything, and you're wearing, honestly,
Shave your head.
shave your head. The uniform that you're putting on is pretty much what they wear at the prisons, basically. Denim short, and a denim pant, bell bottom pants, and a shirt. That's what they actually wear. But the one thing that was significant for me, because that whole thing is shocking already, just going through that, and you're like, what the heck is this? What did I sign myself into? You get a chance to go to church on Sunday for an hour and a half. And see, in boot camp, you're 12 weeks, maybe 13 weeks, something like that. Anyways, especially in the first 4 weeks, every single minute of your day is controlled by the DI, right? So you can't do anything without them telling you what to do, right? So you use it's using the bathroom, taking a shower, or whatever. It's like, so you have to. So the Sunday is where you have, whoever wants to go to church can go to church. So there's normally like 4 or 5 of us that will want to go to church. So we go march over to the church, and then when you're at church, you can relax a little bit, basically. And for me, that was like so much a release for me. Because Catholic Church, wherever you go, it's the same format, the same things. It's so what I felt there was, as the mass was going through, if I close my eyes, basically, and just listen, I felt like I was already at home, basically. Yeah, because it's just you'll hear the same thing. People will talk this, the same thing. It's just different voices, perhaps, with different, verses that they're reading, but it's the same format. And been going through church all my life, I felt like, yeah, I could be just in Georgia. I could be just back in the Philippines listening to this, basically, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of helped me recharge and be ready for the next week, and at least give you a break where you're not all stressed out about the entire week, which you normally are. But then after that, you're like, I can do this. I can do this, basically. And that was, yeah, that was one definitely experience that I don't ever forget. That I always, oh, yeah, this is pretty cool. That I felt like I was at home, transported myself at home, when I really didn't, basically. So
You call him Papa, right?
yeah,
Was it your Papa that encouraged you to join the Navy?
it actually wasn't. It was Mama, his wife, who
Okay.
encouraged me to join the Navy. And Mama was more. So I was already high school, graduated high school, I think. So I graduated high school May of '88. So I had a little break, May to June, July, August. It was from after graduating high school. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Military was always there. There was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do that. College wasn't. Well, I wouldn't have mind going to college. I think part of the problem was nobody really told me what I needed to do. There was no way to really research. Basically, you had to talk to somebody. And my career counselor, I think I saw her once in my entire high school career, basically. So there was nobody really giving me guidance on what that is. I knew college was an option to go, or something that you should do. I didn't really know how to go about doing it. So after I graduated, I moved to my older sister, Bambi, was already living in California. So I moved, or stayed with them, basically, for about a month, 2 months. And while I was there, I got a job working with my sister. We were working at a hotel, a Hilton, at that time in Burbank, California.
Okay.
And I was doing the phone operator. Back then, there was no, you had to actually go.
Really evolved.
Yeah, it was one of those, not doing this, but it was definitely like a,
Manual.
connecting it somehow.
Yeah.
So we did that. I did that for a couple months, but I was like, I don't see myself doing this thing. I can't, I'm not going to be doing. So just every now and then after work, Mom and I would sit in the back, in the porch or at the table, just kind of talking and all that stuff. And she'd ask me, I think, what I want to do. And I said, I don't know. Military is always something I always I was thinking about doing. So I don't know who came. I was already driving at that point in time. So I think I borrowed a car and went to where the recruiters were: Air Force, Army, Navy, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines was there, and just talked to somebody. So my first crack at doing it, I said, well, why not the Air Force? So go to the Air Force guy. No, I was thinking Army. I was thinking Army first. I was going to the Army guy. He wasn't there. He was out to lunch.
Okay.
I go to the Air Force guy. He was getting ready to go lunch. I'm like, okay, well, okay. I wasn't thinking about the Navy, but as I was walking down the hall, the Navy guy, which is a Filipino guy, he was like, come, come.
It's meant to be.
Oh yeah, and then I tell you what, man. 2 weeks later, I'm in the Navy, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick when it happened, and going back to Papa, he was like shocked. He was like, "What?" He was like,
You're in the Navy now?
next thing you know, like I was there in the house. Next thing you know, or in the apartment. Next thing I know, I was gone, basically. So. So he was definitely. I'm sure I mean, I knew he was happy I did it for sure, but it was just more like it happened so fast, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely God meant for me to do that, and yeah, the rest is history. I mean, here we are.
Wow.
So
Okay, well, I want to get into your Navy story because you've served for
20 years.
20 years. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack there. But before we do, I didn't ever get to meet Papa or Mama, right? So could you help describe them to me, or just like what were they like?
When we were staying with them, when in Vidalia, when they, for a while they were staying with them, and then for later on, as I got older, ninth, 10th grade to high school, we were living beside each other most of the time, but different house, basically.
Okay.
They very, very loving. I mean, I always felt like, it's like taking care of kids again, but they didn't have to. They had a good life. I mean, I remember when before we went to the US, before I went to the US, we'd go to his house, and it was in Antipolo, and he'd have, they had several houses that I remember growing up. And at one point, they were living beside us, and he was successful businessman, an air conditioning company. So he was successful. Yeah, definitely do a lot of things, and got paid well and everything. And then you know they were always there as part of our life, even in the Philippines. Like when they were living next door to us, one of my memories there is in the backyard. They said he had, labor is cheap in the Philippines, so he had a cabin built where we could play basically in his backyard. And it was not only just play, he would hold. I remember having parties there in the village, and just us kids and the relatives. House in the beach that we would go to, all of us as a family, and them. They would stay there like a few days, hang out, go swim and all stuff. So that he was always part of that in the Philippines. And then also Baguio in the mountains, they would have some of that where we'd grow up there. So they were always part of our life. But when we moved to the US, them, in the Philippines, you have maids to help you, drivers to take care of you. So it's easier sometimes to do life there. When you go to the US, you have to do everything yourself. And take us to school. Mama would cook. He would cook. He likes to cook. Mama doesn't normally cook, but Mama would do the laundry, keep the house. It's stuff that, and that's five of us that they were doing it. Yeah, four of us basically that they were doing that with. And, certainly dealing with the challenges of kids our age. So they were, I always felt like they did it for us. And I, always felt the love that they gave us. That sometimes I feel like, wow, they gave up a life just to be with us, basically, kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely I learned a lot from them about what love is from a grandparent, from a parent, and all that stuff. So because I think they showed that every single day, basically.
Wow. I wish I could have met them.
Yeah, they were definitely good examples, and that's who I want to emulate. Actually, the one thing that I with Papa, you may not know the story of this thing, was when we were in the Philippines, me and my cousins, basically, we had to be, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5, a little bit older, but I remember it. He would take us, we'd all ride in the car, basically. He'd take us to one of the nice restaurants, fancy restaurants, and he'd say, "Oh, well, order what you want. Order, want a milkshake, you want a burger, and all that stuff." And we'd be like, "I want both. I want a milkshake and a burger." So, we're like kids, man. I had no idea. They can't even eat that much. But we just eat and order. But I'd walk out. I just remember walking. I was so full walking out of there. And, I just remember that, and that's something similar I want to do with my grandkids and say, take the grandkids and just say, let's go eat, let's go. I do that. I remember doing that with you guys.
Yeah, you already do.
I do. I do it. Because it's just a memory that that a grandparent and their grandkids and their kids. It's like you just remember. It's like, all right, Dad. Grandpa just wants to, have fun with us, basically, and it's cool. It's just fun, basically. So yeah, that's something I remember for him, and yeah, it just does a lot of. I did a lot of good things, a lot of love what I felt with them.
I was reading recently about how Jesus would have meals with people because meals is what, it's what brings you closer. And we have a lot of fond memories over certain dinners that we went to or lunches or breakfasts or whatever we were cooking that day. And so I think that's really special that you had that and you're wanting to pass that on because we do that now with Tati, very much so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that when she's so comfortable and saying, "Hey, Grandpa, can I have this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love that because it's just, you just want to just shower her or just give her love, basically,
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not gonna do anything, not normally, anything that she'd not approve of, anyways. Not normally, once or twice every now and then, but not normally.
Well, to be fair, you always said you were gonna spoil our
Yeah,
kids, your grandkids and
yeah,
our kids. You
and
always told us
yeah.
that.
Growing up, I had that. I felt like I had that at least as a young kid. Felt like I had that with them. It's just that's just a memory they should have, basically.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
special, very special.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this when you were telling me the story of how you went to the Air Force guy. I thought your dad was Navy, so Navy wasn't your first
No,
pick.
Grandpa was Air Force.
Oh, Grandpa was Air
Grandpa's
Force.
Air Force.
Oh,
He's Air
okay.
Force.
So
So that's
that's
why I
why
was
you wanted
thinking
to
Air
go.
Force.
Okay, got it, got it.
So I was like, I didn't really know any better as far as like, now I know better. Like Air Force is a little bit easier. Army's,
Don't tell Dad.
harder. Yeah,
Dad,
yeah.
if you're listening,
Yeah.
Dad said it.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, in the service, that's always a joke for that.
Yeah.
The Navy's, a little bit harder. Everybody has their jokes about the Navy and in the Marine, but Air Force is always the easiest. I'm like, I didn't know that, but I felt like Grandpa was Air my dad was Air Force. I'm like, okay, let's try that, basically. So, yeah, I was. I mean, it, it was the way God wanted it to be because it was like bam, bam, bam. Here we go.
Yeah, it went fast. So you did boot camp you were in California when you
Yeah, San Diego.
Okay.
San Diego is where I did, but that place is closed now. That's just all the thing left in that base right now is there's this building that's shaped like a ship. I think the last time I drove there, of course, this is a few years ago. It might not be there anymore. Last time I drove there, it was still there. It was called USS Never Dock. I think, yeah. Because it's where you practice. It's where you actually practice drills on the boat and all that. They make it look like a ship, but it's really not a ship. It's a building, basically. So, yeah, that's what it is. They still do that today. I think I saw something recently where they do mock. That's because that's how you train. You train, with this, with the what? Yeah, it's as if you were on a ship. How to fight a fire, how to do different things.
I know boot camp was really hard. You were talking a little bit about that. How did you see God show up for you throughout your time in the Navy, really?
Yeah, I always felt like I had God with me. I mean, I would, just bring something with me, something to like even a bookmark or a card. Definitely throughout my career, I told you this, I always had a rosary with me. Just, just again, it's my comfort level that I feel like God is there, Mary's there with me, that somebody's there with me no matter what. Good or bad, or I've needed that where you never know, right? You never know what could happen there. The worst could happen. That's what you sign up for. I just want to be ready in case something happens, or not ready. You are ready. You have to be pretty much ready that something could happen at any time. But pretty much if you're in a bad situation where you could, like, I guess one way of looking at it, it's kind of like when you are like the boot camp, right? When you just close your eyes and, they can't take that away from you, basically.
No.
It's like you and God being there, basically, right? So, yeah, they could probably hurt you. Thank goodness that didn't happen to me and that stuff. But it's like you're still at peace. You're still ready to face whatever challenge you've got, basically.
Yeah, because you know he's in your corner and
He's
he'll always be there.
He's in your corner. He's always going to be there. And I definitely, we do a lot of dangerous things in the military, and more than one occasion, you're almost shaking your head and like, how did we survive that? Basically, because other than the grace of God, basically, that He was protecting you and guiding you and guiding whoever else needed to make sure you're safe. Because there were, there's just too many things that can go wrong, that sometimes do go wrong. You would have just been a consequence of something, and but thank goodness again, like God's got my back, basically. So,
Yeah. Was there one, like, do you have a memory where you were like, there's no way I would have survived this without God? Or like there was like, you knew God had his hand over it and was protecting you?
Yeah, definitely. Flying is what we did in the military and what I did. And there was a lot of 2 or 3 situations where, we made a mistake doing something, but we were heading towards a really bad situation, either an aircraft collision or going somewhere where you were not supposed to go, basically. And it could have been worse, basically, but because something happened that kept it from getting worse, basically. It's just again, you're like, the first thing you can say, man, thank God, basically, really, because you just, if God just didn't have your back, you just would have been, I may not be here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I remember this story that you told me about how there was like you had a heat on the carpet, or you had a heater on the
Oh
carpet.
yeah.
Could you tell them that? Could you tell us and them that
Yeah,
story?
well,
Yeah.
this was when I was living in Georgia. The winters get pretty cold, and you reach freezing levels basically there some winters, and we were using portable heaters, the plug-in portable heaters. It was one of those winters. I was in my room, and the portable heater was by my bed. I could see the portable heater on the ground. And I think maybe I'm sound asleep. It's maybe 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I opened my eyes, right? I opened my eyes, just to, I don't know. I just opened my eyes. First thing I see is the floor heater. And it was fine. Everything was okay. And what happens is sometimes the cord becomes too hot. The cord that plugs into the wall becomes too hot. I open my eyes. I say within 3 seconds of me opening my eye, I see a fire that caught the carpet on fire, basically from the cord. It sparked, it just ignited, basically. I mean, like I opened my eyes and then like one, two, three. Yeah.
Wow.
So
God woke you up.
yeah, I got definitely hooked me up there, and where I just had to, state of mind to just, you know, unplug it and put the fire out.
Yeah.
It was quick. It was just quick. Unplug it and put the fire out, basically. So there was definitely a burnt hole in the carpet. Yeah, it was maybe about a silver dollar size or something like that. And I wasn't shocked. I wasn't anything. In fact, as soon as I did that, I just went back to sleep, basically.
On to the
I'm
next.
good. We're good. Okay. So, but yeah, that was
God.
definitely another one. And here's another one too. When I was another incident for me where I feel like definitely there's my angel or is watching over me. And I remember it vividly. I'm about maybe 3 or 4 years old. In our house in the Philippines, there's a concrete wall, basically fence that, concrete's about, I don't know, about 4 inches wide. So it's up and down, up like this, where you can climb the concrete and kind of walk up there, especially as a kid, basically. You can, because it's small and you have small legs, small feet. So I was climbing that and I fell.
Mm.
And grandma, my mom had like, the a plant that's growing in a pot, or maybe it wasn't in a pot, but it was what they had was one of those bamboo sticks that they put on the ground to hold the tree up or to hold the plant up, basically.
Next to the wall.
Next to the wall, yeah, because the wall, and then you want to plant plants over there. So I'm falling backwards like this. And I swear I just see. Honestly, the stick is right under me. I see myself just moving like this.
Oh.
Yeah, and as I'm going down in slow motion, if you will, I'm like
Oh my
looking at the
God.
stick coming down right here. But I was under it. The next thing I knew, it was like it's over here. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was. I mean, it's just. And I told my mom and my mom and dad about this. Of course, they're like, I'm sure they believed me. I'm sure they believed what was going on and everything. But I felt like definitely that was one of the ones that was like, wow, was definitely somebody watching over you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Could be like a
goodness.
skewered pig at that point.
I know,
That was. It was
jeez.
like I'm just watching it go by. Kind of thing. So
Wow. Well, praise God that you're
yeah,
here. Could have been bad. Could
that
have
could have
ended
been
in a
bad.
different way.
That could have been bad, definitely. So yeah, I mean, definitely many instances of you just know God's hand is in it, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, now you are a dad of 3 daughters. You have 1 granddaughter. What has being a father taught you about God?
Wow, patience. Lots of patience. Lots of patience. Lots of understanding. Definitely. I mean, I still don't sometimes. I still don't get girls, to be honest with you. I don't understand girls. I don't know, what you guys think about and stuff, but I
Yeah.
still
But you do
don't.
your best though.
I do my best. I probably do better than others for
Hmm.
sure, but the others may get me more, may get you guys more than me, but I do my best. I don't know. I just care for you guys. I mean, you guys are just important. Like as any parent, I'm not saying it, just as any parent, when you love your kids, you just, you're wanting to do things for them and want to take care of them and everything, and you just know that you're not. At some point, you guys are gonna. I like to say, parents become from or dad go from being a hero to a zero at some point in time with you guys, right? Because that's really what happens, right? We go from hero to zero. Basically, you're like, oh, the best thing, dad, and then next thing you know, like, where are you? Why am I talking to you? Basically, why am I you here? I don't even want to see you, basically. Kind of thing.
But then
So
it goes back,
it goes
you
back.
know?
It goes back. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. I get it. I get it. So I'm sure you and I have some of that experience.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
we do. So yeah, and it's patience. It's patience and definitely a lot of praying, a lot of sometimes a lot of sleepless nights to try to think about what's going on. Basically,
Yeah.
a lot of sleepless nights. But you try to do what is right and what is you try to pray and ask God loving, God fearing people to see what they would do and talking to the priest, talking to others, and try to understand what to do. Not easy. It's a struggle, but I guess here you are still talking to me, and
Yeah.
the kids must have done something right.
You did. You did. You were meant to be a girl
Yeah,
dad. We are
thanks.
so blessed to have you.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely enjoyed having you. I would say, the happiest days of my life as is when you guys were kids. Definitely, at least if I had to compare everything, you guys were kids, and we would go to the beach and Bellows or go to Kailua Beach, and we just boogie board and grill some chicken or whatever, go
Go
camping.
camping.
Those were just some fun times, and even like it's making fun of stuff. Remember the times we would pick you up from school. And then you and Bea would be like our little jokes that we'd play, the punch buggy
I
joke,
know.
or we'd go
Get
to
Burger King.
get
Yeah.
stuff like
With our
that
coupons too.
with a coupon, you
Yeah.
name it, man. It was just those were just happy times, basically, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, there's always going to be problems. Yeah, there's always going to things, but it's just like whatever. It's still fun. You're still hanging out and simple. It's a simple thing to just you know enjoy a burger,
Yeah.
enjoy your fries together, and it's fun. It's like a treat, not just for you guys, for me. It's like, hey, this is cool. Get to just get good to eat. And then just playing, in the backyard or whatever, and hanging out in the hammock or whatever kind of thing. So that was just fun times, basically. Family, just spending time with family, especially if you've got young kids. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, basically, and it goes too fast sometimes, but it's that's why not future more grandkids, not a bad thing.
Yeah. In due time, Dad. In due
I
time.
know, in
It'll
due time.
come.
No rush. No rush. We'll
You
enjoy
already got
Tati.
one. Yeah.
We'll enjoy Tati
Got
first.
one for now.
We'll enjoy Tati first.
Did you ever find it hard to balance faith, work, raising three girls, like having a wife, having, your dreams, your goals? How did you balance it all? How were you able to balance it all?
It's interesting you asked that. I've been deployed all over the world. Deployed all over the world. Gone even on the ship. I've never missed a day Sunday of going to church. I've never missed a Sunday. So what does that mean? Is that finding place for God? I try to
Mhm.
definitely. I mean, I pray at night. I pray. Always try to stay in as part of that. But I think I always at least had to make time, at least that, even if it's just that 1 hour to go to church. I felt like I was making time for God because I needed it. I
Yeah.
needed it more than anything else because I needed the break and listening to the word of God, listening to the sermon, listening to for whatever challenge that I may have. I always felt like that was always there. I mean, even after as you guys became older, as you know, we've had our family challenges too, and even then, and even then were times where I felt like it was really hard, where I felt like I was doubting it to a certain extent, even doubting my faith and everything. I just couldn't let myself turn my back or say no or whatever. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. Regardless of what the challenges are, I felt like it was turning my back on that would be like, what else would be there, basically?
Yeah.
If I turned my back on God, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have anything else, basically. Yeah. So I definitely didn't want to do that, basically. I felt too scared not to have him, basically. I think I tried to, at least in my mind, my thing, at least spending time going to mass at least once a week, receiving communion, doing all that stuff. At least I had needed that for myself, basically.
Yeah, my pastor said this the other day. He said, what a blessing it is to have had the generations before you grow up in church and to bring you into and to let you know who God is and to speak about him in the household, because that's not how it is for everybody,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I mean, honestly, growing up, going to church every Sunday,
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't,
get it.
I was too young.
Yeah,
I didn't understand
yeah,
why we were doing that every Sunday
yeah,
or why it was so important that we prioritized it. But now, being an adult, I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's the 1 hour a week where I feel like my cup is being filled again,
yes,
like I'm
yes.
being recharged,
Exactly, exactly. And you're hearing things that are actually important. It's not about, okay, so whatever, you learn something at work or whatever kind of thing, but this is like, how do you deal with this with life, basically, that you've
Yeah.
got, the problem that you've got, and, why are things so painful? Why are things so hard? Why are things, but, every now and then you'll hear something there that you're like, oh, yeah,
Oh
that's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I feel like
that's
sometimes it
why.
just feels like like God knew that you
Yeah,
needed to
that you
hear it.
needed to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't go, you might miss out, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really will, and then you have to
Yeah.
wait another week to be
No,
recharged again,
yeah.
and then by that point you're burnt out and you're out of battery,
And
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 it
and
gets
you know,
worse.
yeah, it's just like working out. And sometimes you don't go, what you miss one day, two, you're like, I won't go again tomorrow. It's like it becomes a habit of not going instead of helping you, basically. So that's what if anything, that's what I'm fearful for. So, and again, it's not for anybody else, but for me, basically, is what I felt
Yeah.
during that time. Because yeah, you always have problems. You always have problems, and I felt like I always got something out of going to church.
Us growing up, how would you pray for us three?
So my routine would be in the morning. It still is. Read the Bible first. Read a page in the Bible, or in this book, it was a Max Lucado book, Bible, where you read a verse. He would give you a verse to read, and then he would explain what it was about. And, I always had my set of prayers that I would pray, certainly for our family and the things that we needed for what was going on at that point in time in the morning, basically. Today, now I do it more also in the morning and also at night. But I try to pray the rosary both in the morning and at night, basically. So, you offered up whatever those problems or challenges that we have. So yeah, I mean, it's, at, there are times also that, just depending how bad the situation is and all. But if I can, definitely try to go to church even on the weekday, I think. But yeah, that's what I would do it.
What's something God is still teaching you right now?
Definitely, definitely patience. He's still teaching me patience. There's no question.
Yeah, do we ever really fully learn
Yeah,
true patience,
yeah,
right? If you ask for patience, if you ask the Lord to help you with patience, He will help. He will
yeah,
let you know how to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think in this season also, especially this season was just really telling me to, and I knew this in the past, but it's more clear now where, um, that the term dying to yourself, basically, which is basically denying yourself to, is what Jesus did, right? Denying yourself, even your life, for the benefit of somebody else, basically. Yeah, 'cause that's what Jesus did. I mean, I'm nowhere near a saint, not even close to Jesus, not even there. I know that not too many people are like that, definitely. But I think we try to strive to, in some instances in our life, to try to be like that. It's about, who else can we help? Who else can we take care of? I feel like this season in my life is more what about, basically. I don't know. I mean, certainly there's there's still challenges. Maybe there's still more challenges, more things to learn about forgiveness. Certainly, in our family, I think there's more of that still. and certainly more things of it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes we fail, and we just fall off the bike or fall off the horse, get back on. Basically, God loves us. Many of His people have disappointed Him, but He still loves us. He still forgives us. He still cares for us and everything. So I think it's just, I think just doing your best, basically, to try to do what He asks you to do, and couple that with helping others to get closer to Him, learn about Him, and forgive those that need to be forgiven, basically, and let those go, basically, kind of thing. Those are, I think, those are in this season. I think those are what I'm learning more and more now, basically. Yeah.
I like that. What would you say to somebody who's kind of on the line, who's like, I want to believe, I want to know Jesus, I want to know God, but I'm not there yet? How would you encourage that person?
Well, I think when God works in good ways, and there's a saying that don't let a good crisis go to waste. What does that mean? It means, is like, we all have problems, we all have crises that we're going through. We think it's bad, while we think that the world may be coming apart, at least that person's world may be coming apart. I think God does that for reasons that really makes you a better person, basically, right? So I think when I would advise somebody is, if you are going through a crisis like that where you feel that it's hopeless, or you're really struggling or challenged with many things that's going on, either your work or your money or your relationships or whatever, right? Or maybe you have a drug addiction, or whatever that may be. I I think, I know my advice would be, there's only really one answer. And I don't want to sound like, people say that and say, going to God, God, prayer is always answered. I mean, I don't, it is, but I know some people don't get that, don't understand that, basically. And I just feel that that's, go at least look, go at least and try to find out, go ask, go talk to somebody, go somebody who's your age, your peer, your whatever, or maybe even find a mentor, even if you don't believe right now, even if you don't believe, and, just, if you don't know, just try to find out.
Yeah.
And just try to look into and see what this is all about, what the fuss is all about, and what it could be. At a minimum, if you're going through a crisis, going through a challenge in your life, it's something that, well, if you haven't tried it, how will you know? At least give it a shot to see if it helps you, basically. What have you got to lose? And I think there's many evidences, many people that, me, you, that have had our own challenges. And, and that's the one thing I will say too. Your challenge, your problem is not, everybody goes through those problems and those challenges. And I think just one thing to look at is, well, how did others get over those challenges and those things, right? And I think many will say it's because God was there to help them, right? So if you're looking for an answer, if you're looking for a way, if you're looking for something to help you, God has helped many people. Try looking there, at least try to find out, basically.
Right. Tap into that curiosity.
Tap into
'Cause
that
it's there for a
curiosity.
reason.
Yeah, and there's so many resources out there, and I guess you can try others, if it's drugs, or it's like some kind of something to make you forget about your problems. Okay, sure. If you want to try that, I don't advise it, but if you want to try that, you'll find out that doesn't work, basically. It's just going to make things worse, right? So, you can find a distraction or whatever. It's just not going to work. I think there's too many evidence that it works, pointing yourself to God. And I think that's one thing that will help you.
I think so too. Is there a Bible verse or a story that has carried you through some of your hardest moments? Really stood out to you?
Yes, I would say many for sure. And I think today there's many, because that's the thing about the Bible, right? And I know you guys do the same thing too. I have this book too. It's called The Daily Bread, and I should share that with you. Actually, it's pretty cool. The same thing, you open it and it'll tell you some of the challenges. So my point is, the Bible is so valid and so relevant still today. If you have a challenge, I think the answer is still there, basically, right? You just have to really try to understand what it is that you're looking for, and God speaks to you in that sense. I think today, and again, so there's many verses that has helped me in the past where I'm at, and it's not that I've not used this before or not heard of this before, but I think it's more evident today for whatever reason. This time, not just me, but this time in my life for sure. I think one of the things is knock and it shall be open. Ask and ye shall be given. It's like the only reason why we haven't gotten something is because we haven't asked for it, right? And I think that's God wants to love us. He wants to spoil us, but he doesn't want us to be ungrateful. So you don't give somebody something without them asking for it, because then they're just doesn't value them.
Yeah.
There's no value for them on that, and it's not something they actually are grateful for. But he wants to love us. He wants to give us. He wants to do these things for us. I mean, yes, same thing, right? The saying, he's not going to give you a snake if you want bread. He's not going to give you, he's not going to give you something that's bad for you, but he truly wants to give us and take care of us. And just got to ask.
Yeah.
Just got to ask. Yeah.
Absolutely. So much power in prayer.
So much power. Yeah.
Just to ask, because you go to God,
Yeah.
like with all your problems, with everything.
Go to God.
Him.
Yeah. Go to God, and then you will. I say this too now, right? I mean, I've been telling you guys this too, right? It's about if you're at a point where you're asking God how to do what you want, and what you want to get. God doesn't just sometimes he will. Generally just give it to you. It's something, but generally he'll show you the way to go get it, basically. Right? And he'll teach you, or put the people in place for you to get going in that direction. And he just doesn't know what you want, basically. You know what I mean? So you just got to ask for it so that he can actually, oh, okay, so you want that. So let me put this thing in place. So you can continue to start working towards that. Again, the whole point of let me know what you want, or you should know what you want, and then things will fall in place so that you can actually go get it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works in great ways.
Great ways. Yeah.
Okay, think this is a little bit of a different one, but thinking back to 5-year-old Robbie, what would you like to tell him? What would you wish you could tell him?
5-year-old Robbie. Yeah, I definitely want to tell him, is to cherish the time now, so then, and love the people that are around you then. So like, I was saying, my mom and papa, those are some fun times growing up, going to the beach, going to the stuff. I don't have that now. We don't have that. So, I'm so happy that I was there, is to enjoy that time. My mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, my cousins, my home, my school that I was going through. I think just cherish that time and just enjoy that time. Love the people that are around you. Enjoy them. Don't be mad. Don't get crazy and whatever. Be, about something that's so silly, be upset about something. There's no reason to be. And I know it's easy for me to say, right? But of course, that's me, 56-year-old telling a 5-year-old. But, it's just because things are so fast, and you just some people that are there then are not going to be there later, basically, right? So you just want to enjoy that and love that and make memories, make good ones, and make love that time with them, basically. And yeah, I mean, I really wasn't gonna thinking about saying this, but I feel like it's the right thing to say. It's like, tell them you love them, basically. You know what I mean? And then I'm sure they may not remember it, but or you may certainly not remember it, but it was still a good feeling to have for them back then to say that, basically. So, I mean, we feel it now. Tati's 4 years old. If she tells you that she loves you, I love you, Grandpa. I love you, Tita Ada. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's one of those that we might not remember it. Maybe we will. I don't know. Maybe, but it was special when she said it, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's one that I would tell myself. I mean, I would probably also tell myself, yeah, you know what? probably don't use that gasoline to light up that charcoal, because Grandpa knows. Talk to Grandpa about this one point, but because yeah, he told me to light some charcoal. And I said, "This is taking too long." So I got thought for some gasoline and dang near almost burned the house down.
Oh my
Ask
goodness.
Grandpa, but that's every time I think. Recently, we go to the Philippines. I tell Grandpa, we're gonna grill something. We don't just use gas or use the propane gas here that we do, and we do charcoal. And it's wood. It's not that the regular. It's the wood, right? It's just harder to. And then we're like, lighting. I said, I was joking. I said, "Do we have any gasoline?"
Oh man.
And he just laughed at me.
Oh, I'll be sure to ask him when
Ask
he's
him.
here. That's
Ask
a
him.
good one.
Ask him. But yeah, I'll definitely tell myself that don't take that gasoline out of the truck and pour it on that thing, because you're gonna burn the house down, basically.
Oh my. Well, you live and you learn,
You live and you learn.
Now
You
you know.
definitely live and you learn. To ask anybody in my family, they know about that event. Believe me.
Oh
So
gosh, I will. I'll see them soon. Okay, so that was you telling 5-year-old.
Mm.
What would 5-year-old Robbie say to you now?
What would 5-year-old Robbie tell me? I hope he tells me. Hey man, you're kind of fun. You're kind of neat. You're kind of cool.
Kind of, you are. You've lived a great life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy where things are. I mean, we all have challenges, but I'm happy where, you know, where I started, and to where, where I ended up. I mean, I sure it could have been better, but you know what? It could have been worse. But I'm happy with the things, and I think it's more about. I think it's because God had my back. 5-year-old Robbie, that's kind of hard, huh? What he would tell me.
He'd be proud of you.
Yeah, he'd be
Would
proud of
he
me.
like would 5-year-old Robbie even have ever thought you'd be here now, you know?
No,
Like, no way.
definitely no. Definitely different from back then. And I still like pandesal back then as I do now. So I'll eat a lot, and you can ask that to my family too, because 5-year-old Robbie always finished the pandesal before even everybody woke up. To be honest with you,
Well, now you can make your own
I
pandesal.
can make my own pandesal now.
There you go.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
That's awesome. What do you want us to always remember, no matter where life takes us?
Okay. I mean, it's definitely you're not going to be alone, and family is very important. You're with God. You're always going to have somebody. You're always going to have somebody to lean on, to help you, to ask for. And I think if you do that, just like in my life, where since that was always part of that, He gets you out of any mess that could potentially happen, right? So I think, and that's what I mean. Yeah, this sometimes with this world it's scary, right? With the things that goes on in this world, some of the things that are going on in politics and the society, the way it's changing, it's scary. I'm scared, and I'm scared for the future, what it brings, and for Tati, what would it would look like for her 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years from now, as she's my age. It's scary, but I think if you have your faith, God will take care of you for sure, and will watch over you, and and make sure He's not going to let you take you down, as long as you're talking to Him, praying to Him. I think that's something that I want you guys to always try to do, and pass that on. Pass it on to. It was so important for me to make sure Tati was part of that at least had something to know, that she was baptized and everything. So that was very important, and I'm so proud of you guys too, of how you guys are, you especially, how you are trying to take that on, bring God, bring Jesus to her life and everything. I'm so proud of that. Basically, I it's something that, again, I'm like, man, I must have done something right. Thank God.
You did, Dad.
Yeah, because that is the most important thing. And then the other thing I'm so proud of for you guys, and that's something I want to, make sure you guys pass that on to, is the importance of family. Importance of, for you, your siblings, your parents, your grandparents. Family's important, because we'll be there to help you through the thick and thin, or whatever that may be. You know what I mean? And we will do our best, and that's what I always know. And I don't, mom and papa are not here now, but certainly mom and dad, my mom and dad, I see that with them. as well, that the love that they have for their kids, their grandkids, their it's just there. They're willing to do anything for them, basically, and it's a good role model. It's a good thing to share and pass on, and that's how God wants it. That is what God talks about, is the family being a core place to know God, first of all, in your family, but also pray to God, basically, right? So, because you all as family praying to God, basically. So, and it's yeah, as you know, we all have our challenges, we all have problems, but you know what? At least God is in the center, basically, right? So, there's things, like I said, there's still things to be learned, forgiveness, and do all that stuff, and maybe we'll get to there from our other challenges, but you know, and we're in work in progress, basically. I guess the last thing is, like, you know what? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. We all will make mistakes, basically. And and the thing that I always say is, you only lose if you quit. You know, if you quit, then you're not gonna win. Basically, you're not gonna get there. So keep at it, keep fighting at it, keep praying, have God there beside you, and just keep in the fight, man. I mean, just one step, one round, one punch at a time, basically,
Yeah,
right?
go ahead and say it. Rocky 3.
Rocky 3, Rocky 3, definitely one of the best movies in the world to try to keep you motivated to,
Yeah.
no matter what, if you're down, man, just keep punching, get up, keep punching. We had a parish member. She was married to, he's Caucasian, but he was married to a Filipina, and I think he lost his job, and he had kids, right, and everything. And I remember Papa's words to him, because he asked about feeling really down and everything, and Papa told him, he said, it's not how you fall,
Type.
it's how you get up
Mhm.
after you fall,
Mhm.
basically. So that's always I never really understood it then. I mean, when he said, I was probably, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old when he said that, when I heard him say that. But it's definitely clear. It just basically just means you just don't stop. You have to get up, and you keep fighting.
Because rain will come, wind will pour, but you
Yeah,
just build your house on the rock. Build it on Jesus, and it'll be okay.
you'll be okay.
We'll be all right.
We'll be all right. I mean, he's got you. Seasons, good and bad times come. Just keep at it, basically.
Yeah, because it's what you said, like those mistakes, those things that you learn from those mistakes, how you get up, that shapes you into who
Exactly.
you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's learning, and yeah, just because you go through, like I say, same thing. Just because you run through a crisis or whatever, good. Learn from a crisis. It's a crisis, it's good, because then you're making yourself better, basically, and it's the lesson that you learn from that. Don't let it go to waste. Learn something from it and improve the next time, the next time, the next time. And I think if you do that, then you're going to be unstoppable. You're going to be unbeatable, basically, because there's only so much mistake you're going to make, basically,
Yeah.
right? So,
And you got God.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dad. That was it for me today. Thank you for joining my podcast.
Yeah, this was fun, actually. I
I
mean,
think that we have much more to go over, but I think my listeners will like it if you just come back on.
I guess I don't have a choice. I mean, you asked me, I'll go, right? So, I mean, I
Yeah.
know, I'm just joking. I don't have a choice. Yeah, sure. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, the way you do things, how you want to do this podcast, it's always been with you, and I always, it's you, it's uniquely you, and at least in our family, and I think it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing, and whatever I can help, man, it's cool. I mean, I don't mind it. I really don't. So I'm glad you're able to do it, basically.
I know, right? Us and our wooden spoons. Thank you for doing that with me. We'll upgrade
We'll
the we'll
upgrade
upgrade eventually.
yeah. And we make
We'll
the
make it work. We make it work, you know?
yeah. These are my spoons, by the way. These are the spoons that I use to cook.
Yeah, something to hold the microphone on.
Hang on to. We'll just use it for a microphone this time. They're all purpose. They're all purpose spoons.
Yeah, exactly. Could do anything you needed to.
We just gotta wash them before we use them again.
Yeah, yeah. On to the next episode,
On to the
but
next episode. Yeah.
thanks for joining, Dad.
Thank you, Hunch. Love you, Hunch.
Love you, Dad.